The red Mustang convertible gleamed at the curb. Caleb parked it directly in front of Ethan's studio. He swaggered inside without a second glance. He asked an employee where the boss was. The young man simply pointed toward the stairs. Caleb took them two at a time. He found Ethan working on a client's shoulder. Ethan was demonstrating a technique to a new hire. Caleb slowed his pace, watching him. Ethan wore a simple baseball cap. His white t-shirt and ripped jeans were familiar. He looked just like he did in high school. After all these years, Caleb truly loved him. And Ethan truly despised Caleb. It was time to finally set him free. His stare must have been intense. Ethan looked up and met his gaze. He stopped his movements immediately. He spoke quietly to his employee. Then he walked over to Caleb. Ethan's question was cold. He asked why Caleb had come. The cap cast a shadow over his face. Caleb looked up, touching his nose nervously. He claimed he was just passing by. Ethan's dark eyes locked onto him. He demanded to know if there was a problem. Ethan was always this detached with him. They were nothing like a real couple. He was an untouchable prize. Somehow, Caleb had claimed him. Whispers had followed them for years. People said Caleb had forced him. Others claimed Ethan only wanted the money. Caleb had ignored all the useless talk. He was grateful for his wealth back then. It was the only reason they were together. But now the money was gone. He could no longer maintain this relationship. Seeing Ethan's emotionless face felt wrong. His indifferent attitude sparked Caleb's irritation. He complained that his lower back was hurting. He blamed a certain someone for the pain. He rubbed his waist for dramatic effect. Something shifted in Ethan's expression. Ethan told him to come inside to talk. Caleb walked into the private lounge. The room was familiar and comfortable. Ethan followed closely behind him. Caleb dropped onto the massage table. He ordered Ethan to come fix him. Ethan stared at Caleb on the table. His gaze lingered for a moment too long. He turned and locked the door. He casually removed his baseball cap. His sharp, almond-shaped eyes were revealed. They always held a sense of distance. A faint bruise colored Ethan's right temple. Caleb had put it there. It was payback for a rough night. The bite had been deep. It was why Ethan wore the cap all week. Ethan walked toward the table. His hands landed on Caleb's shoulders. Caleb closed his eyes, enjoying the touch. These were the only moments of peace. He had to admit Ethan was skilled, but he would never say it aloud. He told Ethan to use more pressure. He asked if Ethan had forgotten to eat. His taunts hung in the air. A sudden chill ran down his spine. A sharp cry escaped Caleb's lips. Pain contorted his features. Ethan had suddenly applied immense force. Felt like his waist would snap. Tears welled in Caleb's eyes. This man would be the death of him. One way or another. Caleb turned and glared at him. He asked if this was a massage or murder. Ethan's voice was perfectly level. He said he was helping Caleb's bad back. He was just using a little more force. He asked why Caleb couldn't handle it. His hands continued their relentless work. Caleb pushed them away and sat up. He had something important to say. Ethan leaned against the table's edge. He asked what it was. The words "let's break up" stuck in his throat. Looking at that face made it impossible. He couldn't bear to let Ethan go. He knew Ethan desperately wanted freedom, but Caleb couldn't bring himself to give it. He didn't have the courage. Not when they were face to face. Without his power, they never would have met. Ethan pressed him for an answer. Caleb shot him a defiant look. He said it was nothing important. He was just bored and wanted to see him. Ethan loomed over him, a tall shadow. The lights created an intimidating silhouette. Caleb met those dark, unblinking eyes. Then, A sudden smile crossed his face. He leaned back on his hands. His posture was that of a spoiled brat. He ordered Ethan to lean down and kiss him. Caleb had always treated him this way. He used his status as a weapon. Ethan only complied on rare occasions. When he was in a particularly good mood, Caleb was used to getting his way. Everyone in the city bowed to his family, but Ethan gave him no special treatment. With Ethan, Caleb had no pride left. Ethan simply raised an eyebrow. He told Caleb he was busy today. He suggested Caleb should leave. He was so quick to push him away. It was clear how much Ethan hated him. But Caleb wouldn't be dismissed so easily. He sprang up from the table. He wrapped his arms around Ethan's neck. He pulled him down for a sudden kiss. Ethan was immune to his advances now. Years ago, a kiss would earn him the silent treatment. Ethan would get angry and ignore him for days. Now he had grown accustomed to it. His expression remained cold, but it was a significant improvement. Ethan looked down at him. He asked if there was anything else. Caleb told him to come home early. He had something to discuss tonight. Ethan's gaze flickered to Caleb's lips. His eyes darkened for a second. He agreed to be home early. Hearing that promise used to bring joy. Today, it only brought a wave of sadness. Caleb noticed the device in Ethan's right ear. It was a high-end hearing aid. He had bought it from a specialist in Switzerland. It was a gift from when he was pursuing him. Ethan had worn the same one for years. He had never replaced it. Ethan was always frugal with his own things. He would never replace it until it broke. Caleb mentioned it was time for an upgrade. He said the model was outdated. He warned it could affect his hearing. Ethan subconsciously touched his ear. His fingers gently brushed the device. He quietly said he knew. Ethan walked him downstairs. A few neighboring business owners were there. They often came to the studio. Whenever the water was shut off nearby, they would come to fill their buckets. Sometimes they asked for parking validation. This was the most expensive part of downtown. Parking fees were astronomical. Caleb always parked right out front. He just wanted to show off his car. He muttered under his breath. He complained that people took advantage. They only came because Ethan was too nice. Ethan explained the city was doing repairs. Caleb thought that was a stupid excuse. He didn't see what that had to do with Ethan. Residents from the condos came too. They always tried to get free parking. Ethan's response was calm. He said they were all potential clients. Ethan didn't argue further. He just silently walked Caleb to his car. Caleb drove with no destination. His mind replayed memories with Ethan. He remembered the first time he saw him. Ethan was playing basketball on the school court. He seemed to glow under the sun. He was so striking. He used to smile back then. But after getting with Caleb, he never smiled. Caleb finally understood why. No one could be happy with someone they disliked. He wondered just how much Ethan hated him. His phone buzzed at a red light. He glanced at the screen and answered. His best friend Liam's voice came through. He told Caleb to come out tonight. Liam said a breakup was no big deal. He promised a night of fun. He had found someone better than Ethan. Someone handsome and more obedient. Caleb took a deep breath. He didn't know how to explain. He hadn't actually broken up with him yet. Liam was surprised by his hesitation. He said it had to be done eventually. He urged him to come to the lounge. He promised Caleb wouldn't be disappointed. Liam hung up before Caleb could refuse. He had stopped going out with friends. It was because of Ethan. He knew Ethan disliked his rich friends, so he had slowly distanced himself. But Liam was different. He would never abandon his oldest friend. When Caleb arrived, the party was started. He saw all the familiar faces. It seemed he was the last one there. Someone immediately started teasing him. A man asked if Caleb was done babysitting Ethan. Another voice chimed in. He sneered that Ethan probably dumped him. Now that Caleb's family was broke. Caleb looked at the speaker. It was Mark, a man he once called a friend. They had always been close, but his tone was completely foreign. Mark used to follow him everywhere. They had been through a lot together. Caleb had never wronged him. He had just seen him less recently. Now Mark seemed like a different person. Caleb frowned deeply. He warned Mark to stay out of his business. Mark just smirked coldly. He told Caleb not to act like a prince anymore. Someone else tried to mediate. He claimed Mark was only joking. He told Caleb not to take it seriously. He offered help if Caleb was in trouble. After all, they were all friends. Caleb sat down on the leather couch. He leaned back with deliberate ease. He spoke with cool indifference. He said his problems weren't for ordinary people. Someone warned him not to be so arrogant. Caleb just scoffed quietly. He didn't care about their opinions. Soon, Liam returned to the table. He sensed the tense atmosphere. He immediately asked what was wrong. Mark answered for everyone. He said they were just joking with Caleb. Liam looked Mark up and down. He then turned back to Caleb. He said breakups were insignificant. He had found someone gentle for Caleb. Liam gestured behind him. A young man walked toward them slowly. He asked if Caleb was satisfied. Liam's tone was proud. Caleb looked up, and his breath caught. The young man's features resembled Ethan's. He looked like a high school version of him, but the resemblance was only physical. No one could replicate Ethan's stare. Ethan had a natural air of superiority. He always radiated a cool pressure. Mark laughed out loud. He remarked on the striking similarity. He said if Caleb couldn't afford Ethan anymore, he could just pay for this new boy instead. Mark's words ignited Caleb's anger. The irritation had been simmering all night. Now it exploded. He told Mark to shut his mouth. His face was a cold mask of fury. Mark had insulted him, but he had also insulted Ethan. Seeing Caleb's rage, Liam stepped in. He turned to Mark with a look. He told Caleb not to be angry. They were friends, and Mark misspoke. Liam put a hand on Caleb's shoulder. He said Ethan wasn't worth the trouble. He tried to coax him with a smile. Caleb remained silent and furious. He grabbed a bottle and poured a drink. He downed the amber liquid in one go. Liam watched the empty glass. He gently tried to persuade him again. He said Ethan was ungrateful. There were plenty of better men out there. Liam glanced at the young man. The boy walked directly to Caleb. He introduced himself as Cody. He asked if Caleb would keep him around. His voice was pleasant. His young face and bright smile were charming. For a moment, Caleb saw the boy from the court, the vibrant teenager under the sun. Caleb waved his hand dismissively. He just wanted to be left alone. But Cody insisted on pouring him drinks. Caleb drank one glass after another. Liam tried to stop him. He reached for the glass, but Caleb blocked him. Liam saw movement in the distance. Someone was walking toward their table. He glanced at Cody, who was still pouring. Caleb was lost in a drunken haze. Suddenly, Cody's hand slipped. Alcohol spilled all over Caleb's shirt. The boy apologized profusely. He claimed it was an accident. He rushed to grab napkins. As he stood, he stumbled. He fell directly into Caleb's lap. Caleb quickly tried to reassure him. He said it was fine, he could clean it himself. His cheeks were flushed from the alcohol. His vision was slightly blurred. His white shirt was now transparent. A young man was sitting on his lap. This was the scene Ethan walked into. He strode over to their table. He said Caleb's name. His voice was dangerously low, cut through Caleb's drunken fog. He sounded like he was grinding his teeth. Hearing that voice sobered Caleb up instantly. Mark was the first to speak. He taunted Ethan for showing up. He said Caleb was having a good time. He told Ethan not to ruin the fun. Ethan stood behind Caleb. He looked down with cold judgment. His eyes fell on the boy in Caleb's lap. His anger intensified. He reminded Caleb about coming home early. Instead, he found him here, fooling around. The young man scrambled to his feet. His eyes were red with fake tears. He bit his lip and looked at Caleb. He apologized again, his voice trembling. Caleb rubbed his temples. He explained he was just drinking with friends. Ethan's gaze swept across the group. It finally landed on Liam. Liam met his stare without flinching. He challenged Ethan's accusation. A friendly gathering wasn't fooling around. He told Ethan he was being controlling. The club's dim lights made Ethan's face harsher. He stared directly at Liam. He asked if he was truly being controlling. He suggested someone else's hands were too long. Ethan calmly removed Liam's hand. It had been resting on Caleb's shoulder. He told Caleb it was time to go home. He picked up Caleb's phone from the table. He helped a wobbly Caleb to his feet. Liam protested as they started to leave. He complained that they rarely hung out. He asked if Caleb was really leaving with him. Mark smirked at them. He told Ethan that Caleb had a new toy. Someone younger, gentler, and more obedient. Ethan's gaze shifted to Cody. Caleb wanted to slap Mark. He quickly tried to explain. He told Ethan he had no relation to the boy. Ethan didn't reply to Mark. He didn't even spare him a look. His sharp gaze returned to Liam. He held Caleb's shoulder tightly. He told Caleb no explanation was needed. Caleb looked at Liam apologetically. He promised to see him another time. He said he had things to do tonight. Liam managed a gentle smile. He told Caleb it was all right. He watched them leave the lounge. His gaze lingered until they disappeared. Then his expression turned to rage. He cursed Ethan under his breath. Mark scurried over to him. He tried to flatter Liam. He said Liam had planned a great night, but Caleb had disrespected his kindness. He called Caleb ungrateful. Liam suddenly kicked Mark. He sent him sprawling to the floor. The people around them froze in shock. Liam warned him never to sow discord again. He told him not to speak ill of Caleb. His cold eyes scanned the silent onlookers. He declared Caleb was his best friend. He promised that anyone who crossed Caleb would have to answer to him. Ethan took Caleb home. Caleb's head was still spinning. They had just stepped inside the penthouse. Ethan immediately tried to remove his wet shirt. Caleb shoved him away. He told Ethan to leave him alone. Ethan's voice was flat. He said the shirt was soaked. He didn't want Caleb to catch a cold. He added that Caleb shouldn't go to such places. His words ignited Caleb's temper. It was just a gathering with friends. He hadn't done anything wrong. He told Ethan to mind his own business. He stormed off toward the bedroom. Ethan's face remained a cold mask. He bent down to tidy Caleb's shoes. Caleb had just closed his eyes. He was trying to think of how to start. The door burst open. Ethan strode into the room. He reached for Caleb. He ripped open the buttons of his shirt. He pulled the garment off forcefully. He tossed it into a hamper like trash. Caleb was now bare-chested. He spoke with surprising calmness. He told Ethan they should break up. Ethan's cold expression did not change. He asked if this was why he was called home. He asked if it was because of that younger boy. Caleb remained silent. His lack of denial was an admission. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. He asked for a reason. Caleb said there was no reason. He just wanted to end things. He didn't want to explain his situation. He had seen this happen to others before. His family was bankrupt. His father had fled with his secretary. He was no longer a wealthy heir. He couldn't afford to keep Ethan. He couldn't force him to stay anymore. But he would never admit this to Ethan. He needed to maintain his last shred of dignity. Ethan must not see him at his lowest. Ethan stared at him intently. His voice was cool and steady. He reminded Caleb that he had started this. It was Caleb who had pursued him. Caleb met Ethan's dark gaze. He put on his old, careless persona. He said he was only interested in his looks. He claimed it was just a game to him. He said he was bored now. After so many years, he was tired of it. He complained about Ethan's stone face. He could spend money on someone younger, someone more interesting and obedient. Ethan's jaw tightened. He told Caleb to repeat what he said. He claimed he hadn't heard clearly. Caleb's eyes flickered to his right ear. The old hearing aid was still there. He had told Ethan to replace it many times. Ethan had never listened. Caleb took a deep breath. He raised his voice deliberately. He said he didn't like Ethan anymore. He wanted to break. His words were cut off. Ethan lunged forward, grabbing his chin. He kissed him with a desperate force. It was a kiss full of anger and possession. He was trying to swallow Caleb's words. Caleb pushed him away with all his might. He yelled at Ethan to get lost. He asked if he was incapable of understanding. The shove sent Ethan stumbling back. He hit the wall hard. The hearing aid in his right ear fell. It clattered softly on the hardwood floor. Ethan stared down at the small device. Caleb's gaze followed his. A complicated feeling twisted in his gut. Ethan's eyes were now filled with rage. He stared at Caleb without blinking. Caleb didn't understand. This should have been a happy moment for Ethan. Maybe his words had hurt his pride. Ethan seemed even more furious now. Caleb had always been the one to initiate. Now he was pushing Ethan away. He was forbidding him from getting close. Ethan warned Caleb to take back his words. Caleb let out a cold, dismissive laugh. He asked if Ethan was joking. He challenged Ethan's right to command him. Ethan suddenly tackled him. Caleb fell backward onto the large bed. Before he could react, a hand was on him. Ethan bit his lower lip hard. Caleb gasped in pain. Ethan's tongue invaded his mouth. It was a frantic, desperate exploration. Something was wrong with Ethan tonight. He was completely unhinged. But he had offered himself up. Caleb couldn't refuse. Opportunities like this were rare. He stopped fighting. He wrapped his arms around Ethan's neck. He returned the kiss with equal fervor. Their bodies tangled together. His pleas were lost in the motion. He cried out Ethan's name over and over. But Ethan couldn't hear him. His dark eyes focused on Caleb. He moved with a relentless energy. Felt like he was trying to break him. Tears streamed from Caleb's eyes. He bit down hard on Ethan's shoulder. The coppery taste of blood filled his mouth. The damn man couldn't hear him, not even if he screamed his lungs out. He whispered softly, his voice breaking. He told Ethan he couldn't bear to leave him. This would be their last time together. The thought brought a fresh wave of grief. He became more passionate, more desperate. He wanted to melt into Ethan's body. He sobbed quietly against his ear. He told his husband he loved him so much. The man above him suddenly paused. Caleb's heart leaped into his throat. He held onto Ethan's shoulders tightly. He held his breath. A moment later, Ethan resumed his rhythm. Caleb finally let out a sigh of relief. The hearing aid was on the floor. There was no way Ethan had heard him. That brief pause had terrified him. If Ethan had heard that confession, he would have died of embarrassment. Ethan was unusually energetic that night. He seemed determined to exhaust Caleb completely. Caleb slept until noon the next day. His entire body was covered in marks. It took all his willpower to get out of bed. Every step was a sharp reminder of the night. Ethan was still home. This was a rare occurrence. He was sitting at the grand piano. He saw Caleb exit the elevator. He turned and asked if he was okay. Caleb glared at him, forcing a brave face. He scoffed and said he was fine. He told Ethan his performance was weak. He suggested Ethan should work out more. Ethan just smiled. He elegantly began to play the piano. The melody was a classic wedding march. Caleb knew nothing about pianos. The instrument in the living room cost a fortune. He had bought it just for show. He could tell Ethan was genuinely happy today. It was rare to see him smile like this. That smile reminded Caleb of 10 years ago. Life with him seemed to have suppressed Ethan. He was this happy about their breakup. The thought made Caleb's heart ache. He asked when Ethan learned to play. He leaned against the piano, feigning a smile. Ethan said he only knew a little. He kept playing. A corner of his mouth turned up. He was truly happy, because he finally knew something for sure. Listening to the wedding song felt tragic. A wedding for them was only a dream. Ethan told Caleb he was taking the day off. Seeing him so happy was heart-wrenching. They had been together for a decade. Ethan could be so cruel. Caleb told him to enjoy his rest. He took a deep breath to steady himself. Ethan suddenly stopped playing. He turned his head to look at Caleb. He wanted to go to the mall together. He wanted to buy Caleb a gift. He said he had been worried for years, but Caleb had given him the right answer. A thank you gift for breaking up? Caleb couldn't believe it. His smile completely vanished. Ethan saw his conflicted expression. He stood up from the piano bench. He reached out and patted Caleb's head. Caleb went to the mall with him. He walked beside Ethan with a sour face. Ethan asked if he was still feeling unwell. Caleb's temper flared. He snapped at Ethan. He yelled that he was perfectly fine. He was just as happy as Ethan was. In fact, he was even happier. Ethan was taken aback by the outburst. Then a small smile touched his lips. He said he was glad Caleb was happy. Caleb had no interest in shopping. Then he saw a familiar figure by the escalators. He stared intently at the person. Ethan asked if he saw someone he knew. Caleb said it was someone he knew very well. He strode quickly toward the escalators. He greeted the man with a sharp hello. He commented on the unlikely encounter. The man, Troy, stared back at him. He froze for a few seconds. He was about to say hello back. Caleb grabbed him by the collar. It was a terrible coincidence. He cursed and threw a punch. His fist connected with Troy's face. Troy saw stars. His head snapped to the side. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Troy was a notorious bully in high school. Caleb had no personal issues with him. Troy wouldn't have dared to mess with him. He extorted money from weaker students. One day he targeted Ethan. Ethan's family was poor back then. He had no money to give. So Troy and his friends beat him up. Caleb remembered the scene vividly. He had found Ethan cornered in the bathroom. They had insulted him for being deaf. They had stomped on his hearing aid. Ethan was covered in bruises. He couldn't hear anything. He could only cover his ears helplessly. Someone had run to get Caleb. Caleb had stopped Troy's brutal attack. He had bought Ethan a new hearing aid from Europe. As for Troy, he transferred schools. He disappeared without a trace. Caleb never got his chance for revenge. Now he had finally found him. And Caleb was already in a foul mood. He was going to beat him senseless. He raised his fist for another blow. A hand caught his wrist from behind. It was Ethan. He told Caleb not to do this. He looked at Troy, holding Caleb back. This made Caleb even angrier. He reminded Ethan of the past bullying. Ethan frowned and said it was all over. Caleb couldn't believe his ears. He asked if Ethan had forgotten everything. Ethan's calm attitude was infuriating. Troy looked at Ethan. He mumbled an apology to Caleb. Ethan kept trying to pull Caleb away. The memory of Ethan being hurt was too strong. Caleb just wanted to pummel Troy. Seeing Caleb's escalating rage, Ethan acted. He simply lifted Caleb off his feet. He carried him away in the opposite direction. Troy held his bruised face and quickly left. Caleb struggled helplessly. He was being dragged further and further away. He could only shout insults at Troy's back. The encounter ruined the entire day. Caleb ignored Ethan when they got home. He wasn't the one who had been bullied, so his anger probably seemed pointless. His father still wasn't answering his calls. The company's assets were mostly sold, but there were still massive debts. Now the Crores were calling him. His father was gone with his mistress. He left Caleb to deal with the mess. Every call went to voicemail. Then his phone was turned off completely. Caleb knew he couldn't be relied on, but he never expected such total abandonment. Ethan saw him pacing with the phone. He asked who Caleb was trying to call. Caleb said it was just his father. He decided it was time. He needed to cut ties with Ethan completely. He feared the debt collectors would find this place. His father owed a lot of money. He couldn't let Ethan know about his ruin. He looked around the beautiful penthouse. It held so many memories. Leaving it would be harder than he thought. He forced a smile for Ethan. He tried to sound nonchalant. He said the penthouse was a parting gift. From now on, they were strangers. Hearing the finality in his tone, Ethan panicked. He asked if Caleb was serious. Caleb just shrugged his shoulders. He asked if it looked like a joke. Ethan's face darkened. His voice was hoarse as he spoke one word. He demanded to know the reason. Caleb said he already had someone new, someone younger and more obedient. Ethan stared at him, his face unreadable. His dark eyes were terrifyingly deep. He said Caleb should tell him the truth. He didn't believe for a second that Caleb was interested in that boy. Caleb smirked, a flicker of hope rising. Maybe Ethan couldn't bear to lose him, but he knew Ethan too well. He wasn't sad. He just wanted a logical answer. Caleb told him to think whatever he wanted. He gave him a playful wink. Then he turned and walked away. He and Ethan were officially over. The Crores started calling him relentlessly. He went to Liam's house to hide. Liam was playing video games on the floor. He asked how the talk with Ethan went. Caleb sighed, collapsing on the couch. He rubbed his temples wearily. He said they had broken up. He had given Ethan the penthouse. Liam swore in disbelief. He asked if Caleb had lost his mind. He was furious about the penthouse. In this situation, he gave it away. Selling it could have provided some cash. It would have bought him some time. Liam looked at him with disappointment. He asked what spell Ethan had cast on him. Caleb answered calmly. He said the location wasn't prime. It wouldn't have sold for much anyway. Ethan had been with him for 10 years. A house was nothing. Liam put down his controller. He asked about Caleb's next move. He knew the Crores would be a problem. Caleb was overwhelmed by them. He couldn't go back to his own home. They were all looking for him. They wanted him to pay his father's debts. They wouldn't stop until they got their money. His father's old business partners called him. They tried to find out where his father was. But Caleb had no idea. The old man didn't care if he lived or died. Caleb felt a deep sense of despair. He said he would have to pay the money back. He planned to sell his downtown condo. He would sell his cars too. Liam offered to help. He suggested asking their circle of friends. They could all pitch in. Caleb laughed without humor. He said after his family's collapse. Liam was the only one who still talked to him. When he was rich, they were friends. Now they were nothing. Mark was the perfect example of this. Liam was insistent. He asked how much was owed. He promised to help raise the money. Caleb refused his offer. This was a hole he had to fill himself. Even if they were friends, the amount was too large. Liam was wealthy, but not that wealthy. Caleb wouldn't drag him down too. Seeing Caleb's distress, Liam made a suggestion. He offered to call Cody over. Caleb asked who Cody was. Liam reminded him about the young man. He asked if Caleb had already forgotten him. Caleb's temper flared again. He asked what good that would do. Would Cody solve his problems? Would he help him pay his debts? Liam explained his reasoning. The boy looked like Ethan. He thought it might help Caleb forget him. Could ease the pain of the breakup. Caleb cut him off. He told Liam not to mention Ethan's name. He truly didn't want to hear it. Liam was just trying to help. But any mention of Ethan felt like a knife. Liam scoffed at his reaction. He said Ethan was nothing special. He always had a sour look on his face. Only Caleb treated him like a treasure. As they were talking, Caleb's phone rang. He saw an unfamiliar number. He assumed it was another Crore. He answered the call. A familiar, cool voice spoke. It was Ethan. He asked why Caleb wasn't answering his calls. He demanded to know where he was. Caleb's mind went blank for a moment. Ethan must have called him before. He had ignored all the unknown numbers. This must be an employee's phone. Caleb asked what he wanted. His own voice was eerily calm. Ethan said someone was at his studio. A man claiming Caleb owed him money. Caleb shot up from the couch. He asked what the man had said. Ethan's voice was low and serious. He asked how much money Caleb owed. Caleb immediately hung up the phone. He stood up in a panic. He told Liam he had to leave. Liam was confused by his sudden departure. Before he could ask, Caleb was gone. He was terrified those men would harm Ethan. Ethan's small business was fragile. He couldn't let them cause trouble there. Ethan was at the studio. He used sign language with his employees. He told them to take the rest of the day off. He then led the Crore upstairs. The man looked around the small studio. He asked if he was Caleb's friend. He wanted to know where Caleb was hiding. Ethan was perfectly composed. He explained he was not his friend. He could pay back the debt. The Crore was surprised by the easy offer. He smiled and named his price. His share was only 20 million. Ethan's face remained impassive. He noticed the man said his share. He asked if Caleb owed others money. The man scoffed at his question. He asked if Ethan didn't know. Caleb's family was bankrupt. His father owed money all over the city. Now everyone was looking for the son. After hearing this, Ethan's expression didn't change. He spoke with solemn clarity. He repeated that they were not friends. The Crore looked confused. He asked why he would pay the debt then. Ethan stated it simply. He said he was Caleb's boyfriend. The man's eyes widened in shock. He looked as if he had heard a great secret. Ethan asked about the total amount owed. The man said he didn't know for sure, but it was probably a lot. After the man left, Ethan made a call. He used the landline at the studio. He asked for a full accounting of his assets. Just as he hung up, Caleb burst in. The studio was empty and silent. He shouted Ethan's name desperately. Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs. He said he was right there. Seeing him unharmed, Caleb felt a wave of relief. He asked if anyone had caused trouble. Ethan looked down at him from above. He asked how much Caleb still owed. Caleb looked up at the man on the stairs. He forced a confident smile. He lied and said it wasn't much. He promised to handle it himself. He said it wouldn't involve Ethan. Ethan saw right through the lie. He walked down the stairs slowly. He listed Caleb's problems one by one. The bankruptcy, the debt, the missing father. He asked if Caleb could truly handle it alone. His tone was so cold and clinical. The smile slid off Caleb's face. His last defense had been torn away. He asked how Ethan knew. His head hung low. The old arrogance was completely gone. He said his situation was dire. He truly couldn't afford him anymore. They should just part ways peacefully. Ethan reached out and touched his face. He asked if their relationship was just financial. He said Caleb loved him too much. He was only breaking up to protect him. Ethan claimed to understand everything. He begged Caleb not to leave him. He said they could face the debt together. Hearing this, Caleb's anger flared. He slapped Ethan's hand away. He yelled that he didn't love him. He accused Ethan of being delusional. He said he only took him in out of pity. He was just his type. He shouted that even at his lowest, he didn't need Ethan's pity. He knew Ethan had a soft heart. This was just his way of being kind. A clean break would be less painful. He didn't need this charity. Ethan's expression remained calm. He asked what they had been doing then. If it wasn't love. He asked if the nights were just games. If Caleb didn't love him, why pay for things? Why buy him cars and a penthouse? Why find doctors for his hearing? Why had he called him husband? He reminded him of his confession, that he loved him and couldn't leave him. Caleb's eyes widened in horror. He pointed a trembling finger at Ethan. He asked if Ethan had heard him. He accused him of faking it. Ethan caught his trembling hand. He leaned in and apologized sincerely. He said he was wearing a hearing aid that night. Caleb's mind flashed back to the scene. He remembered the device falling. Ethan reached into his left ear. He pulled out a tiny, invisible hearing aid. He explained his left ear wasn't completely deaf. He said Caleb always assumed it was. Caleb was completely stunned. He asked about all the other times. All the things he had said in bed. Ethan answered honestly. He said he heard everything. But that was the first time Caleb said he loved him. Ethan's honesty was devastating. Caleb's world completely fell apart. He always thought Ethan couldn't hear. He had been so uninhibited. The shame was overwhelming. He wanted the ground to swallow him whole. The bankruptcy hadn't broken him. His father's betrayal hadn't either. But this revelation destroyed him. His composure finally shattered. He covered his face, laughing and crying. Ethan pulled him into a hug. He told him it was okay. He pleaded with him not to break up. He would help pay the money back. Caleb pushed him away with force. He told him to stop talking nonsense. The debt was too large for Ethan. He told Ethan to leave him alone. He fled the studio in a panic. All his defenses were gone. Ethan watched him go, his eyes full of pain. Later, Caleb was drinking alone. Liam called him with shocking news. He told Caleb his debt was gone. Someone had paid it all off. $250 million. Paid in full within 3 days. Caleb thought he was drunk. He thought he was hallucinating. He asked Liam to repeat himself. Liam confirmed the news. Someone had cleared his entire debt. Caleb sobered up instantly. He asked who had paid it. Liam said it was Ethan. Caleb was completely baffled. He asked where Ethan got that kind of money. Liam's voice was full of anger. He said Ethan had been deceiving him. Liam had investigated him. The entire commercial street was Ethan's. The luxury residential area nearby was also his. Caleb couldn't believe it. It sounded like a ridiculous story, since he had known Ethan. He was poor with no family. He had even paid for Ethan's tuition. He told Liam his information must be wrong. Liam insisted he was right. He said Ethan had produced $300 million. He used it to clear Caleb's debts. Caleb's hand tightened around his phone. His mind wasn't on the debt. All he could think about was the lie. Why would Ethan pretend to be poor? Why would he let Caleb sponsor him? He couldn't understand the reason. Liam's voice pulled him back. He was yelling his name, worried. Caleb said he had to find him. He needed to get answers. He grabbed his jacket and called Ethan. The call connected instantly. He asked where Ethan was. Ethan's voice was calm. He said he was at the studio. Caleb took a cab straight there. An employee saw him coming. He quickly went to inform Ethan. Ethan just nodded. He said he knew. He continued signing to a client. Caleb stormed in, yelling his name. The staff knew about their relationship. They just exchanged nervous glances. Ethan glanced at him calmly. He told him to wait in the lounge. He finished his conversation with the client. Caleb waited in the quiet room. He tried to control his anger, but the thought of the decade-long deception made his fury boil over. He kicked the sofa repeatedly. He knocked over a chair for good measure. Ethan came in shortly after. He closed the door and locked it. Caleb's eyes were blazing. He sarcastically thanked him for the money. He yelled about how he had been played. He felt like a complete fool. Who was he to sponsor a secret tycoon? He called him Boss Ethan, dripping with scorn. He declared they were finished for good. Ethan glanced at him coolly. He said he did not want to break up. He admitted he was wrong to hide it, but he still refused to separate. Suddenly, he grabbed Caleb's shoulders. He crushed his lips against Caleb's. His hands held his neck firmly. His other hand slid down his back. He confessed that he loved him. He didn't want to break up. Caleb was trapped in his embrace. The confession left him dizzy. He asked why if Ethan hated him. Ethan denied ever hating him. He said he had always liked him. He had planned to confess at the mall, but Caleb had insisted on breaking up. His hand moved lower on Caleb's back. Caleb squirmed, his body tingling. He told Ethan to let go. They were in his place of business. Ethan held him even tighter. He begged for another chance. His voice was desperate. Caleb was shocked to hear him plead. He had never begged for anything. Ethan's hands grew bolder. Caleb wanted to punch him, but looking at his face, he couldn't. His heart was a mess of emotions. He hated the lies, but loved the man. He never truly wanted to leave him, and now Ethan was begging him to stay. Even though his pride was wounded, he knew he had already forgiven him. After all, he did pay off his debt. He put on a mask of arrogance. He reminded Ethan that he was the one begging. He said he would be generous this one time. A smile touched Ethan's lips. He admitted he was wrong. He pulled a small box from his pocket. He said it was the gift from the mall. He told Caleb to open it. Inside were a pair of custom rings. Ethan asked for his opinion. Caleb pretended to be unimpressed. He said they were just average. Ethan took a ring from the box. He slid it carefully onto Caleb's finger. And just like that, they were back together. Caleb later told Liam the news. Liam was not surprised. He confessed something from the past. He had never liked Ethan's attitude. He always thought he was pretentious, so he had hired Troy to scare him off. He wanted Ethan to stay away from Caleb, but they had gotten together anyway. Liam apologized for his past actions. He said he still thought Ethan was fake. Caleb never told Ethan that story. It didn't matter anymore. As Ethan said, the past was over. They would be together forever. 10 years, then 20, then a lifetime.